Windows. Now there's a new chipset for motherboards, and this is the X370 chipset. So this supports pretty much all the features you would want in this mod.
Victory for the Forsaken!
Locked and loaded.
My blades are yours. I stand ready.
Tremble before me.
I would expect no less.
The battle begins in 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the battle begin. Double kill.
Give the order. I knew you could do it. Tear this fort to shreds. Show them no forward. Vengeance is mine. I must retreat. Of course.
Here, gather tribute and earn my favor. That was rather violent. Excellent.
We must assist our ally. Pull back.
Well done. We should capture this mercenary
Forward.
camp.
To the deck. Get in there. The moment is upon us.
Well fought, warriors.
I grow tired of your petty squabbling. Gather tribute. Earn my favor.
The attack. Of course. Vengeance.
Pay for that. Shall we see who gathers enough tribute this time?
I have no time for games. I'm here. Do not test my patience. Do not test my patience. Vengeance is near.
Gather tribute or face my curse. The choice is simple.
I listen. To the death.
Good kill. Double kill.
A valiant strike.
They
Enemy
plead for
slain.
us.
Excellent. We should capture this mercenary camp.
We should capture this
My
mercenary camp.
will is my own.
Modern day and age. The one I've got here is an Asus Prime motherboard, and it's a good example of how you can get all the features you'd want from a motherboard, whereas previously you just wouldn't get this if you went down the AMD platform, as you would miss out on things like DDR4 memory, USB 3.1 support, and things like that. So here we have M.2 NVMe support. We've got DDR4 memory, and this is dual channel, it's not quad channel, so that is a big difference versus the X99 Intel platform. But most people will be absolutely fine buying 2 sticks of RAM and using it in dual channel anyway, because it saves you money, and in my experience I haven't really noticed much difference between using 4 sticks in quad channel and 2 sticks in dual channel anyway. But otherwise we've got plenty of USB 3.1 ports on the back, as well as a header on the motherboard itself, so you can hook this up to a compatible case and then get USB 3.1 on the front. So if this is sounding very modern, it's because it is, and you pretty much have all the features you want here. Now it uses the AM4 socket, and this is a new socket, which means you may need to look at your cooling to make sure that it's actually compatible with this new motherboard and the new processor. Some companies will offer an upgrades solution, so you can get companies like Corsair, I believe, will ship out different kits to upgrade you to AM4 if you need to. But new CPU coolers like the one I've got here, which is a Master Liquid 120, has support for AM4 out of the box. And so if you're buying a new CPU cooler, do check that it does support AM4, as otherwise you're going to not be able to mount your cooler onto your processor. And then finally, Windows. Depending on what version of Windows you're running, whether it's OEM or not, you may not be able to move from an old motherboard to a new one without actually buying a new license key of Windows. As I say, this will entirely depend on what you're running now, so you will need to check. Just bear in mind that you may well upgrade your system and then it say that your license key isn't valid, and then you'd need to fork out for a new Windows license key. And so that's pretty much everything you need to know about the Ryzen platform. The main thing really is that it is going to cost you a fair amount of money to upgrade, and if you do need things like new memory as well, then of course that's going to bump up the cost further, and if you do need a copy of Windows, then you're looking at nearer the £650 mark. so it's not going to be the cheapest upgrade out there. But it all depends what you're currently running, and if you are looking to buy a new system, like a lot of people are, then the Ryzen platform definitely looks like a really solid shout. If you were previously looking at the 6900K, then I think that thing is going to get a massive price drop, because if the performance is very similar to the 1800X, then there are going to be very few people out there that want to pay £500 for quad channel RAM. It's just simply not going to happen. But then, if you're one of these people that are after a new gaming PC, then while Ryzen is very, very interesting and is definitely worth a closer look, it may well still be worth looking at getting an i5, because that's still cheaper. That's around about £250, maybe a little bit less, £230 at the time of filming. And for most people, that's still all the CPU horsepower in games that they need. So spending the extra money for the Ryzen platform, so around about £100 extra, still might not make that much sense. But fortunately, there are more AMD CPUs coming later in the year that will offer hopefully just as good levels of performance at a lower price. But we'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to wait and see how well these Ryzen chips actually perform before we can give full judgment over whether it's worth it. But hopefully this video has helped you understand everything you need if you do want to get into the Ryzen platform. If it has helped you, then please leave a like. If it hasn't, leave a dislike. Let me know what you think. Are you upgrading to a Ryzen system? Are you making a new build? Please do let me know. Subscribe for more videos just like this. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to another video. Now today I've decided to cheer up a little bit because I got my hands on this, the brand new Shield TV. And this is Nvidia's answer to those people that want to stream games from their home PC or through their GeForce Now network to actually get up to 4K 60 FPS on their TV without having to have a massive PC right next to their living room television. Now, I was really excited to get hold of this, and eBuyer here in the UK really helpfully loaned out this review sample. And taking a look at the box, the design is actually pretty damn good. It definitely has a few things that I would like to be changed, but overall it's a really attractive unit. It has a large green LED that powers on whenever the device is on. You've got a capacitive touch button on the front, which, to be honest, I prefer it was a physical button, as you can quite easily accidentally press the button when you're reaching around the back to plug in a USB device or similar. And then the top section of the unit actually has a glossy plastic on it, which is very prone to scratches and is very prone to fingerprints as well. So it's not going to be my first choice for design materials, but it definitely does look very good. You don't get an HDMI cable on the box though, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't see why a device costing as much as this doesn't come with an HDMI cable on the box. It seems a little bit silly to me. But other than that, we've got pretty much all the connections you would want. We've got an Ethernet socket, and I would suggest that you do use this, especially if you're going to be doing 4K or game streaming, because it's going to be very reliant on latency. Then we've also got a micro USB socket, two USB 3.0 sockets for connecting to an external hard drive or something like that, and then a micro SD card slot as well. So this does have expandable storage, and you can get the Pro version, which this one is, that comes with a 500 gigabyte hard drive actually baked into the device. So if you want to set up a media server, then this is pretty much what this exact model is targeted for. But most people should stick with a standard 16 gigabyte version, as you can expand the storage anyway, and most people probably won't ever fill up that 500 gigabytes, and of course it adds a lot of extra cost. Also supplied in the box are two remotes. One is a gamepad, and then one is a actual normal style remote. Both of them have voice features, so you can access the Android TV that this box runs, and the standard remote has a micro USB connection down the bottom for charging its internal battery. You've got a capacitive button that can be used as a volume slider, so you can quickly and easily turn the volume up and down on your system. And then you've got a four-way selector with a central button, as well as a voice activation button. Now the remote works very well. OK Google is going to work pretty well. It's probably actually activated a load of Android phones. It works pretty well. It's not as feature rich as it will be. They're adding a lot more features and the ability to control your smart home, and you can expand this with NVIDIA spots. That's also coming very soon. But at the moment you can use OK Google to actually search, say, like the Play Store for movies or the NVIDIA Shield gaming store for games and things like that. So it's dependent on the application you're in. So if you're on YouTube, you can quickly find something like Linus Tech Tips, let's say. If you just search that with your voice, and it will come up without you having to type it in, which is a very useful feature and is something I've become to love. When you're not watching TV though, you're going to want to use the supplied controller. And it's a fairly edgy design, if you see what I've done there. And it's not necessarily a bad controller at all. It's fairly comfortable, it fits nicely in your hand. The buttons are all easy to reach, and I didn't feel any fatigue after using it for a long period of time. But having said that, it definitely doesn't feel that premium, and if you compare it directly to a PlayStation 4 controller or an Xbox One controller, it can't compete. Those controllers are definitely better than the NVIDIA Shield controller, but it's not a bad controller at all. Now the user interface of the device, if you've ever used Android TV, is going to feel very familiar. You've got Google Cast built in as well, so if you do want to quickly fire off something from someone's phone, as long as it's on the same network, then you can quickly cast it to the screen in the same way that you would with a Chromecast. But the thing that's so good about the Shield TV is just how quick and nippy it is. It's by far the most responsive unit like this I've ever used. It's far better than the internal on-screen menus that you get with the Samsung 4K TV that I'm using this on. But even comparing it to something like the Xbox One S, even though that's fairly nippy, the actual applications, they load up a lot quicker. YouTube seems to just load like that and then it's ready to go. The buffer size seems to be a little bit bigger as well, so everything loads ridiculously quickly, and it's a real pleasure to use no matter what you want to do. We've got a range of apps, so you can look at Netflix and Amazon in 4K HDR. This isn't really that impressive though, because while the applications are a lot quicker than the ones that are built into your TV, you do have a couple of issues, the main one really being the fact that these apps are already built into your TV, so you're not really getting much of an advantage. Or you might be like me, where you have an old AV receiver, which means that if you do use the built-in applications, then I'm not going to get surround sound, because the HDMI connects directly to the TV, then an optical cable to my receiver, and in the process the surround sound Dolby audio gets lost, but it's not really going to affect most people. But this is a gaming box, and you've pretty much got three ways to play games here. You can either play Android TV games. So, for example, I've been playing a Trials game, I've been playing the original Tomb Raider, and I've been playing a racing game for a little bit. And all of these games have one thing in common, and that's that they don't look fantastic. They're Android games, so they don't really take advantage of the full power of the unit, and there are definitely some that do, but even then they're still not going to really compete with the latest consoles and a proper PC. The latency, though, of course, is going to be perfect because it's running locally on the device. It is quite nice to be able to pick up cheap games that are fairly nostalgic, so Tomb Raider is a great example of this. I've been playing it with my father like we used to 15 years ago, and things like that is actually pretty damn useful and isn't something I could do on my PC because it doesn't support gamepads, things like that. But it's not really going to be the most useful thing for most people, but it's still nice to have. So what most people are going to be doing is they're going to be streaming from the cloud, and they're going to be using GeForce Now, which is a way of streaming games on a subscription service, so it's £7.99 here in the UK, and that gets you access to a fixed library exactly the same way that Netflix works, and then you can stream games directly from the cloud. They look a lot better than I thought they were going to, but they still don't look fantastic. They stream up to 1080p at 60 frames per second, so I've been playing Deus Ex on this thing, and the latency, you can definitely feel it, but it's very easy to get used to, and even the first-person shooter that is Deus Ex, or third-person in some cases, is more than playable, and it feels very natural, and you just get used to it. But visually, it's not going to necessarily be better than a current generation console, especially if you're playing one of the newer titles. Something like Deus Ex that's a little bit older, then obviously it's going to be running on a PC, which was better than the Xbox 360 that we were playing it on when the game first came out. But it's not really going to be something you're going to praise for its visual fidelity. And of course you're going to have a few other issues as well, because it's not just the latency. The fact that you're streaming directly from the cloud means that if you ever have your internet connection cut out even for a second, then your game is going to quit and you're going to have to start again. You're going to maybe lose your checkpoint or something like that. This has happened a couple of times to me, and this is all running off a power line connection, by the way. If you're trying to use this on Wi-Fi, it's going to be significantly worse than the experience I had. But if you're using this on a LAN, then it is going to be better. But I think Powerline is going to be the most real-world test, as that's what most people will be doing with the box. So those are the two ways of streaming games that don't require any additional hardware. But if you really want to maximise this device's potential, you're going to need to have your own PC with an NVIDIA GeForce graphics card. Now I've been using this with a GTX 1080, and if you do have a 1080 you can utilise this up to 60Hz 4K streaming, but any other graphics card, it says on the website, it's currently capped out at 1080p 60, but to be honest with you, even the GTX 1080 doesn't have enough horsepower for 4K 60 in a lot of titles anyway, so it's not really a big deal. And the experience is going to vary from game to game. It's very easy to set up. Simply log into the NVIDIA account on both your PC and your NVIDIA Shield, connect the two together, and then it brings up a library of all your games. It doesn't matter whether they're on Steam, Origin, the Universal Windows platform. They should all pop up on screen, and then it gives you a brief description of the game, as if you are buying it on the store, for instance. It looks exactly the same as that. And then you just hit play, and then it shows your PC screen, and then it loads up. Now I've used in-home streaming before and it's been very mixed, but this is the first